You may just be one limiting belief away from experiencing a breakthrough in your life. According to the National Science Foundation, our brains can produce as many as 50,000 thoughts per day, and 95% of these thoughts are on repeat via our subconscious mind. And so there are stories and beliefs and things that happened to you when you were a child that oftentimes are continually being voiced in our brains that dictate almost every action during the day. And the reality is this: beliefs are incredibly powerful. It may be the single greatest determining factor of what your life will look like. Here's what Tony Robbins says. He says, beliefs have the power to create and the power to destroy. We know the Bible shares as well that life and death are in the power of the tongue. And basically your beliefs are what you're going to speak out. And so the reality is our beliefs are powerful, and you need to make sure that you become aware of what your limiting beliefs are if you're going to live a better future. And this matters because, again, a belief, whether it be true or false, will change the outcome of your life. And you can unlock the door to becoming the person you were born to be only if you have the right beliefs. And this is something I discovered in my life as well. And I'm going to share something incredibly personal today that really impacted who I was and who I've become in life. And then I want to go through how you can unlock the greatest version of you as well. So here's the big problem. Beliefs come from mainly when we were kids, okay? Our upbringing, our experiences, our relationships, also the culture and media play a pretty big role for most people in what we believe about ourselves and the world and others. And negative beliefs can become the soundtrack of your life and will literally restrict your growth. It's called the law of the lid. Basically, when you have a limiting belief, you can't grow past it. And so no matter how hard you try and you're struggling, have you ever been in a situation in life where you really wanted to have a great relationship with somebody, but it's like no matter what you did, you couldn't feel connected to them? It could be your spouse even, could be someone you're dating, could be a child, could be a friend. That's an example of that. Or maybe it's business, and you feel like no matter what you do in business, you're on a treadmill. You just can't seem to break free. You can't seem to go forward. Listen, it's so much less about what you do. It's so much more about what you believe that actually restricts your growth. And if you have a limiting belief, there's no room for transformation or growth. And here's the reality. Whether you think you can or you can't, you're right for the most part with most things in life. And so your level of thinking and your beliefs are one of the most powerful things that you can change in order to change your trajectory in life. And so here's how this worked for me when I was a kid. So I remember going into freshman English class, so freshman 101 in high school. And I had the teacher ask me about halfway through the year to stay after class. And her name was Miss Noble. And I stayed after class. And she said to me, she said, Josh, what do you want to do after high school? And I said, I really want to be a doctor. And she literally laughed out loud. She said, Josh, she said, listen, my daughter barely got into medical school. She had a 3.8 GPA and almost didn't get into Ohio State Med School. And she said, listen, your GPA right now is pitiful. She said, you got an F on this paper. That's why she wanted me to stay after. She laid this on the desk for me to take. And she said, you got an F on your paper. You've got a D- in this class. And she said, listen, if you don't try harder, you're not even going to graduate high school. And I walked out of the class, and it's interesting what you take away as a kid. Oftentimes people say things and it's not necessarily even what they meant. Now, I do think she meant this, but here's what I walked away with. I walked away out of that class, and the soundtrack that started running through my head, or the belief was, I'm not smart. That's what I believed. I thought, I am not smart. This teacher, I'm not getting good grades. That means, well, if you got a D, a C or lower, you're not smart. If you got a B, you're average. You got an A, you're smart. And so I was getting all C's or D's. And so for me, I thought, I'm not smart. Now, here's the other thing. 2 weeks later, my mom brings me in to see a doctor, and I go in and see this doctor, and first off, they're talking about me like I'm not in the room, or this doctor is. And he said, your son has ADHD and he's going to really struggle with learning. And so while I was sitting there, and then he prescribes a medication called, at the time, I think it was Ritalin. And then later on, I got a Adderall prescription. But I got diagnosed with medication, and now I never took it. Because my mom didn't want me to put me on medications then. Now, later on, I did take it for, by the way, this is a whole nother story. I did take ADHD medication for about a week, and I got off immediately because I felt like it was really changing my personality, and I didn't want that. But going back to this, here's what I took away from this. I thought, well, not only am I not smart, I'm medically not smart after getting a medical diagnosis of ADHD. So throughout high school, I really stopped trying. I had so much self-doubt that the only reason that I even graduated high school, I graduated with a C- GPA, like a 2.28 or something, just very low GPA. And the only reason I graduated was I knew if I didn't, my dad would be irate. So literally my entire purpose and motivation for graduating high school wasn't because I wanted to go and change the world anymore. It was because I didn't want my dad to be too angry at me. And think about what happened just by one person saying one negative thing to me or a couple experiences. I believe because this teacher said this, I wasn't smart and my potential limited, and my thoughts of becoming a doctor just went out the window. I honestly stopped thinking about it. Like I had these dreams and vision in life that when my mom had cancer and was going through chemotherapy and had a mastectomy and going through this trauma in life, my heart broke for my mom. And I said to myself as a kid, two things. One, I want to help people prevent this sort of suffering. And number two, I said, there's got to be a better way of helping people beat cancer. So those are the two things I felt. And then I went into this one meeting with this person, and my dreams, my purpose, all those things were shattered. And so I just went through high school without even thinking about it again. Then I got to college, and here's what happened. So here's the thing. I applied to a lot of colleges. I got denied by most because my GPA was so bad. But I did a lot of extracurriculars and things like that looked good. And so one college I really wanted to get into, they sent me a letter back and they said, well, you're not in. But they said this. They said, if you come to summer school and take several courses and you average above a 3.0 GPA, then we'll let you in. And I thought to myself, well, listen, I don't want to be the kid that doesn't go off to college, that stays home and lives with his parents. I thought, I want to go, and I'm going to really try this time. And so first class I had to take in summer school was English 101. So I went and took English 101. This was at the University of Kentucky. I went and took English 101. And one of the first assignments was to write a paper. And I wrote a paper, and I thought, I'm really going to try and write a great paper. I spent a lot of time on it, went and turned it in. And then a few days later, the teacher at the end of class said, hey, Josh, can I talk to you for a minute? And my initial reaction was, oh no, my stomach just dropped, because I thought this is going to be the same thing. You didn't do well. And, this thing of, maybe you're not cut out for this. And so I stay after, and her name was Miss Williams. And she asked me, this is almost like deja vu. She said, Josh, what's your major? And I said, well, I haven't chosen a major. I said, I don't really know. And she said, I just want you to consider something. She said, I think you should consider being an English major or journalism or do something with writing. And I said, okay, why? And she said, well, I just want to let you know you got the highest grade in the entire class. You got an A on this paper. And I really think you could be a talented writer and you have a gift for this. And I said, okay. And I walked out of the classroom. And for me at that time, it totally rewrote the narrative in my mind. In fact, one of the things that I would correlate this with, it was almost like I had a organ transplant. It was a memory transplant. I had this memory of growing up where I wasn't smart from this one teacher. And I was able to take that one thing someone said and replace it with something else, to where not only am I not smart, I replaced the I'm not smart with, I can be an incredible writer. I can do this if I just apply myself and try. And if you think about this, it's a very similar thing to an organ transplant. It's a mindset transplant, to where if you have a sick heart or liver today, you can have someone else donate to you a new heart or a new liver or a new organ, a new kidney, and it can save and transform your life. And I want to say those words from that teacher were almost that identical thing for me, to where I didn't believe in myself. I didn't believe I could. I wasn't smart. And now I was smart. I was capable. I could go do it. And from then on in college, all it took for me was that one thing, replacing that one belief. And I then went on, averaged above a 3.0 in college. When I went to Johns Hopkins University, I graduated a top 10 institution with a 3.9 GPA, and then went on to build a $100 million company, helps transform the health of tens of thousands, if not millions of people, was able to write 7 books, hit the Inc. 5000 list twice, and overall just live a great life. And by the way, I don't share any of those things to boast. I share it because of this. If I would have held on to that one single limiting belief, I wouldn't have accomplished any of that. I wouldn't have become a doctor. I wouldn't have built a successful business. I probably wouldn't have even have tried. But because I was able to rewrite that limiting belief and create a new empowering belief, my entire life changed. And one question I have for you, and I want to really then get into, here's how to change your limiting beliefs and identify them. But a question I have for you is there a limiting belief holding you back from fulfilling your dreams in life? Is there a limiting belief you have that's keeping you from having a great relationship? Is there a limiting belief that's keeping you from starting the business, writing the book you've dreamed about, investing in your kids in some way, whatever it might be, or experiencing a health breakthrough? You might just be one single limiting belief away from absolutely radically changing your life.